the general manager. So that is also, though we can say, maybe minor from the other two, no? But before before the question, if you don't mind, I promise that I will explain why we have 10. Is that your question? Oh, I'm sorry. I was not able to give you the opportunity to. Please ask the question.
The question I'm going to ask is, I'm Dr. Kalang from Isabela. The question I'm going to ask is supposed to answer because you mentioned a while ago. How did you downsize or right-size the 10,000 workforce to 8,500? How was the change implemented in this case?
Actually, by policy, we never, you see, I just like to explain first. We are in the automotive industry. And the automotive industry can be considered as one of the hardest industry. Because you cannot afford to delay your delivery to the customers. Otherwise, you will be penalized. And the penalty could even be bigger than your profit the whole year. So you cannot afford to accept an order and yet fail to deliver. And at the same time, you cannot afford also to refuse the order, because if you refuse their order, you will not have any order the next year. So when you go, especially to I'm talking of the OEM, because we are supplying to the car makers. So it's very strict. You cannot refuse the order. So whatever order they give you, you have to accept. And you have a very limited area to adjust the delivery date. If they say, I want this on this date, it's so difficult to say, can I move it to another date? Because they give it to you because they need the product, because they have to sell it right away. So that's the difficulty in the automotive industry. Now, it's the policy of our company, I'm talking Yasaki Torres, not to refuse any order. And even though we have a choice to refuse, because Yasaki is distributing orders to different locations. So we can say that we can, because we are not talking with the customer directly, we are talking with Yasaki, then we have an opportunity to say no. There is a new model, said, will you accept it? There is an opportunity to say no. He has no opportunities to say no to the car makers, but we can have an opportunity to say no. We are fully, we have so much already, please give it to the other location. So we can do that. But to delay the delivery, we cannot. We can be penalized for that. Only the receiving we can afford. Now, but it is our policy not to refuse. We always accept. And a few years ago, there was a very, very big order received by Yasaki, and they had to farm it out. And they have to give to us so much. The other location in other countries refused or took only a portion. In our case, we always get whatever we can get. So, at that time, we have to get so many people. And actually, the efficiency was lower than our normal efficiency. So much, and new people. So it happens for a few years. But afterwards, new methodologies, especially the lean manufacturing. So we went into lean manufacturing, which improved our efficiency. So the 10,000 is now more than 8,000. So that's the reason for that. We improve our efficiency and through the change of process. Actually, it's not really purely machine because our industry is still labor intensive. We have automatic machines, yes, but to assemble, we need people. So still that is a labor intensive manufacturing process. So to your question.
Good afternoon, Mr. Torres. My name is Art Zamora, and I'm a faculty member for AGSB. My question is this. Well, it's good to know that there is this initiative between EBESE and the government agencies to improve productivity. But I am under the impression that most of the efforts are actually directed towards manufacturing. Now, I learned this morning from another storyteller that ours is fast becoming a service economy. Now, is there any plan by EBESE to do the same, to conduct the same efforts for the service industry or the service sector?
We actually have plans a few years ago to start with the service sector. However, as our funds are coming from the Department of Science and Technology, the UST, which is mainly focused on manufacturing. It's restricted on manufacturing. If given the opportunity that an institution would provide funding for the service group, service sectors, we can do that also because our program is very, very flexible. The problem is really the funds. And in fact, the reason why we have limited number of beneficiaries is because of limited funds as well coming from our government partners. Remember, this is free for SMEs.
Good afternoon, Mr. Torres. I'm Ivy Formoso, and I'm faculty here at the AGSB. I also worked with ECOP during the 80s and the 90s, and with Mr. Hernandez when I was at San Miguel. Now, one of the things that that I was thinking of was the demographics. Like today, 68% of the workforce is being employed by the small, medium, and micro enterprises compared to only about 30+% for the large companies. So one of the hindering factors for the program to push through will be labor unrest. So I just wanted to find out if EBESE and ECOP are doing something to address the labor concerns in micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises. Basically because you mentioned that one of the programs did not push through because there was an impending strike. So is this part of the things that EBESE and ECOP are working on? Because I understand also from ECOP that a lot of the things that they do is tripartite. They're trying to move into a tripartite mode. So you have already included business, the schools, the institutions, government, and labor. Are you also bringing in labor into the formula for a successful EBESE program?